I thought it would be fun to examine the final fate of the 12 apostles of Christ, as well as the other authors of the New Testament. So this would include his original 12 apostles, plus Matthias, who was chosen to replace Judas, as well as the other authors, Mark, Luke, Jude, James, and especially Paul. Now, I've mentioned some of these in previous videos, but let us put them all here in a nice, orderly list. Let us talk about the 12 apostles first. In general, I will go in the order as it is presented in the Gospel of Mark, because I think that Mark lists them in order of seniority. But before we do that, let's take two of them out of order. First, Judas Iscariot, the first one to die. After betraying Christ, he tried to return the money that he had been paid. When he realized what he had done, he went and hung himself on a tree. The tree broke, he fell to the ground, and it says that his bowels gushed forth. This is the bowels of the belly area, his intestines. When he hit the ground, it burst his stomach and the intestines fell out. Nice and gory details in the Bible. You gotta love it. After Judas Iscariot, the next one we want to talk about briefly is John the Beloved, because he is the only one that never died. He is translated. We don't know exactly when he is taken out of the society of men. Just like with the three Nephites, they are removed from the world. Still on the earth, but not of the world. Most likely John is separated from the world in the early 2nd century, probably during the reign of Trajan, Emperor of Rome. Having talked about the two big ones, the two obvious ones, let us now go through the rest of the apostles in seniority. Starting with Peter, the president of the church, the leader of the 12. His travels were primarily in Asia Minor, Greece, and ending in Rome, where he spent several years. Finally, under the reign of Nero, he is arrested and sentenced to death. He is crucified, but he does not want the honor of being killed or dying in the same way that Christ died. And so, though he is ordered executed, he is executed upside down, so that he does not share the same death as Christ. Next is James, the son of Zebedee, brother of John. He would have been the first counselor in the first presidency. His is the only death, other than Judas Iscariot, that is recorded in the New Testament. And his ministry primarily was in Jerusalem. There is a tradition that in the 30s, in the late 30s, like 38, 39, he traveled out to Spain and founded the first churches in Spain. Returns to Jerusalem in 40 or 41 and is killed by Herod Agrippa I, as is recorded in the New Testament. He is killed by the sword, slain by the sword by Herod Agrippa near the beginning of the great persecutions of the Christians. So that would be in 43, 44, probably 44, because that's the year that Agrippa dies. Then we come to Andrew, the brother of Peter. His travels take him north through Syria and up around the Black Sea to the land of Scythia, outside the Roman Empire. But he continues traveling and circles around the Black Sea down into Greece, where he is eventually crucified. This is in the city of Patras of Achaia. Like Peter, he does not feel he deserves the honor to die in the same way that Christ died. So though he is crucified on an X cross, and he is only tied to it, he is not nailed, but left to hang there until he dies of exposure and asphyxiation. After Andrew, we come to Philip, and do not confuse Philip the Apostle with Philip the Evangelist, one of the 7 who is called later. Philip, he travels up through Syria, Phrygia, which is in Asia Minor, and over into Greece. In the city of Hierapolis, it is said that he converts the wife of the proconsul, and the proconsul gets so upset at this that he orders Philip to be crucified. Some say he was beheaded, but he is most often referred to as being crucified. There is also some question whether he was crucified normally or upside down, as Peter was. This would have been in the year approximately 80. Next is Bartholomew. Bartholomew, he seems to travel outside of the Roman Empire quite a bit. He is said to have gone out to India, as well as down into Ethiopia in Africa, but his final mission was into Armenia, between the Black and Caspian Seas. And it is here in Armenia, in the area known as Azerbaijan, where he is martyred. He converts one of the local kings, and the king's brother, fearing retaliation from Rome, who is not friendly to Christians, gets angry and orders the death of Bartholomew. Now, the locals have the tradition that he was crucified in the area, but it is more commonly believed that he was flayed alive, meaning had his skin removed while he was still alive, then beheaded. And this would have been in the early 70s, about 71. Next is Matthew, also called Levi in some of the Gospels. And his ministry is primarily in Jerusalem, but near the end of his life, in the 60s, he travels down into Ethiopia. And here he oversees the church. Now, the legend is that the princess, the daughter of the king, her name being Iphigenia, she is converted. And she is a very chaste woman. Now, according to the Catholic tradition, she is a nun. When her father, Agabus, dies, his brother becomes king, King Thaddaeus, and he wants to marry her. But being a nun, she can't get married. So he asks Matthew to condone the marriage, and Matthew publicly chastises him, humiliates him, and so he orders his guards to kill Matthew, and Matthew is thus slain by the sword in the year 68. I have some issues with this tradition in the fact that nuns did not exist in the first century. They are a Catholic invention. So she wasn't a nun. She was probably chaste, and she probably didn't want to marry her uncle because he was not a Christian. And Matthew probably did publicly chastise him for this whole deal. Most of that is probably true, but she wasn't a nun, in my opinion. Let us move on now to Thomas. He's a fun guy. He traveled into Syria, but he kept moving east. Assyria, down through the Crescent Valley in Mesopotamia between the Euphrates and Tigris rivers, and eventually out into India. He is also credited as beginning the church in Sri Lanka, as well as traveling out to China, being the first to open the Christian mission in China. But he returns to India, and in the city of Canaanite, he is driven through with a spear in the year 72. Why exactly, I haven't found out yet, but that is where he meets his death. Next is James, the son of Alphaeus, also known as James the Less. We really don't know anything about where his travels were, where he was ministering. His death appears to have occurred in the year 62, the tradition being that he was preaching in Egypt where he is crucified, but even the details of this are sketchy, so we know very little about his travels or his death. After James, we get Thaddaeus. Now, Thaddaeus is also referred to as Judas, the brother of James in Luke, and just referred to as Judas, not Iscariot, in John. Sometimes in modern writing, he is simply referred to as Jude to distinguish him from Judas Iscariot. He really stays primarily in the Middle Eastern area around Jerusalem. So he starts in Jerusalem, he does go up to Samaria, he then goes down south to Idumea, he goes into Syria. He also goes over into Mesopotamia a little bit between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. His farthest journey, I believe, would be to Libya in north central Africa. But he eventually goes up north into Armenia. There are two different traditions. Either he goes up into Armenia, where he is killed, or he is killed in Beirut, which I believe is in modern-day Lebanon. How he is killed, I have not found out. It is believed he died as a martyr, but the exact mode of death I have not figured out. He would have died around the year 65. Then we come to Simon the Canaanite, or Simon the Zealot. Now, the Canaanite means he is from the city of Cana. His travels are all over the place. And we don't really know, most of it is just legends and myths, we don't really know where he went. But according to various legends and myths, he traveled into Africa, he would go into Armenia, but he also is said to have traveled as far as the British Isles, being the first to preach the gospel in England. His death also has various tellings: beheading, being sawn in half, crucified, various things. And the artwork, the ancient artwork on this one is just grotesque. So we don't know exactly how he died. We don't know exactly where he was preaching, but we assume he died around the year 65. And our last apostle is Matthias, the man called to replace Judas. His travels are primarily between the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea. He travels up to Armenia, Georgia, that area. There's some traditions that said he went down into Ethiopia as well, but his main mission is up north in this area between the two seas. He is killed, he is martyred about the year 80. We're not entirely sure where. Some stories say Jerusalem, some stories say Georgia, and we're not exactly sure how. We just know that he is killed. But those are all the confirmed apostles. Those are the ones that we know were apostles. The other writers of the New Testament, some of them are referred to as apostles, and they may have been ordained apostles, but we have no direct confirmation of that. So let us talk about these writers. The first, most prolific, Paul. His travels were mostly in southern Europe. He went Asia Minor, Greece, Italy, possibly out to Spain. We're not 100% sure on that. But he is beheaded in Rome in the year 65 under the reign of Nero. Luke, he traveled largely with Paul, Asia Minor, Greece, and into Italy. He was the only one who was with Paul at Paul's final trial. And he is the only one of the authors of the New Testament that is said to have died of old age. After all the persecutions, he settles in Greece, where he dies of old age in, however you pronounce this, Boeotia, I believe. There are some traditions, some later legends that say he was hanged, but those are later traditions and are not likely true. He probably died of old age. Mark, author of the Gospel, he also traveled with Paul in his early years. He would later travel with Peter, but eventually he makes his way down to Africa. It seems he was born in Egypt, and he would be converted in Jerusalem. Now he returns to Egypt to preach to his family. Again here, the people get upset, and he starts getting a large following, converting many people. The local leaders in the city of Alexandria get upset. They tie him to the back of a horse and drag him through the streets until he dies. Then let's look at James, the author of the Epistle of James, the brother of Christ, also known as James the Just. According to tradition, his ministry is almost exclusively in Jerusalem and the surrounding area. I think he was probably called as a presiding bishop, and he remained there to oversee the center of the church until his death in 62, when the Jews, the Pharisees, get angry with him, and some say they cast him off the pinnacle of the temple, but he doesn't die, and so they stone him to death. And to hurry the process up, somebody takes a club and bashes him over the head to kill him quickly. He was at least stoned. The rest of the story might be later embellishments. And finally, Jude, the author of the Epistle of Jude, also called the brother of James. Now, this guy, we have no clue about anything about him. There is the theory that he is the same as the apostle. Remember Thaddaeus, remember that in Mark the apostle is called Thaddaeus, but in Luke he is Judas, the brother of James, and in John he is just referred to as Judas, not Iscariot. In the Epistle of Jude he refers to himself as Jude, the brother of James, not the brother of Christ, and so many people think he is the apostle Jude, or Thaddaeus. If that's true, we know what happened to him. If he is a different person, then we have no information about him other than that he is the author of the epistle and most likely the Judas listed as a brother of Christ. But we have no clue where he was preaching or how he died. And that is the fate of the apostles of Christ and the authors of the New Testament.